Western Australia is experiencing a rapid energy transformation as we transition to net zero emissions by 2050. Our main electricity grid, the South West Interconnected System, is leading the way on a global stage. Last year, 34% of energy was generated from renewable sources. Households have been driving this transition. Almost 1 in 3 households have rooftop solar, but industry is now joining the switch. Demand in our main electricity grid could increase 5-fold by 2050, and this requires more than 50 gigawatts of generating capacity.
We've got to invest in a future where we don't understand all the answers. We've got to invest in a future where the infrastructure doesn't yet exist. And we've got to invest in a future where not all of the technology is readily available to do what our aspirations want us to do. And that's a really difficult problem that perhaps unlike the 60s, we can't solve by ourselves. We're all going to have to lean in. We're all going to have to be part of the solution. It's going to mean that we're going to have to think really differently about this. We're going to have to work really differently about this. And we're going to have to take some leaps of faith without all the answers. But we need to get going, we need to make decisions, and we need to chart a direction if we really want to unlock probably the next biggest opportunity, not only for the Pilbara, but also for the state.
I actually don't think it's a or B question, and perhaps that's the fallacy that some people would like you to believe, is that it's fossil or renewables. How do we tackle emissions whilst continuing to provide the reliable and affordable energy that people around the world are seeking? Actually, if you look at global statistics, last year, spend on renewables exceeded spend on conventional energy sources. So globally, the trend is moving there. The pie is shifting. We're shifting how the pie is split, and that will continue over time. I firmly believe that. But it does mean that as we think about, again, meeting the energy needs of the developing world, meeting the energy needs of our trading partners in Asia, we need to recognize that the transition is going to take time. So we will have to pursue all of the above. And as we think again about WA, some of the fantastic work that Minister Johnston supported, things like tackling Pilbara emissions, well, that'll be a multi-year journey for us to be pulling our emissions down as we build out the infrastructure. But it's an and question, not an or question.
I'll actually refer back to the International Energy Agency's Net Zero Roadmap, which stated that policymakers, industry and civil society need to work together to nurture a build big mentality and expedite decision-making while preserving public engagement and environmental safeguards. And we hope that this event is a positive step towards that goal.
For BP, it's a legacy of, by 2030, seeing that our customers have the products that they want, where they want, when they want, to really facilitate their decarbonisation journey, and to have, whether that's green electricity, renewable fuels, green hydrogen, carbon sequestration, to really start moving the dial. I think that the time between now and 2030, as we all know, is so mission critical. It will really lay the foundation in terms of how quickly we bend the curve in overall global emissions. And as Meg quite rightly points out, we as Australia have such a critical role to play for the world, in that there are so many other countries that are depending on all of us in this room to work together to make this happen in this time frame, so that collectively we have a hope of meeting the Paris climate commitment.
Actually got to move into execution pretty rapidly. From our perspective, to build that enabling infrastructure that gets everything going, it's probably a 7 to 8 year process. And if we think about being in 2023, heading into 2024 rapidly, we actually don't have any more time to sit back and not move forward. So the next really critical phase is actually knowing where the renewable hubs are that are going to bring those green electrons into industry and where the demand centres are, and then actually now moving into the execution phase where you plan, you deeply engage with local communities before you identify the fully formed routes so that they have the best chance of success. You've worked through the benefit sharing back with the traditional owners who have rights and that they hold in relation to those lands and the local community. And then we get into the job of building. And if you think about that 8-year give or take process, about half of it now is sitting in the making sure you have social licence to operate and getting through the approval process. And I really would also endorse those comments about where we have conflict between different parts of government, how can we think about resolving quickly to get through what is really critical. We have a global imperative to decarbonise.